Discover why the Buddha's teachings are still life-changing in the modern world. Are you searching for wisdom and enlightenment? Look no further than the teachings of the Buddha, the greatest teacher in the history of human consciousness. The Buddha, also known as Siddhartha Gautama, was a spiritual leader who lived over 2,500 years ago in ancient India. In the kingdom of Kapilavastu, nestled amidst the verdant foothills of the Himalayas, there lived a young prince named Siddhartha. He was born into a life of opulence and luxury, surrounded by servants and adorned with every comfort imaginable. Yet despite the lavishness of his surroundings, Siddhartha felt a profound sense of restlessness stirring within his soul. From a young age, Siddhartha was acutely aware of the suffering that pervaded the world beyond the palace walls. He witnessed poverty, sickness, and death, and felt a deep empathy for those who bore the weight of such hardships. As he grew older, Siddhartha became increasingly troubled by the impermanence and uncertainty of life, and a burning question began to take root in his heart. What is the true nature of existence, and is there a way to transcend the suffering that permeates it? Driven by an insatiable thirst for truth and meaning, Siddhartha resolved to seek answers to life's most profound questions. Renouncing his princely status and worldly possessions, he set out into the wilderness, determined to find enlightenment at any cost. The quest for enlightenment. For years, Siddhartha wandered the forests and foothills of India, studying under the most esteemed spiritual teachers and ascetics of his time. He learned the intricacies of meditation and philosophy, mastering the arts of self-discipline and renunciation. Yet despite his diligent efforts, Siddhartha remained unfulfilled, his quest for enlightenment as elusive as ever. Frustrated and disheartened, Siddhartha resolved to chart his own course toward awakening. He retreated to the banks of the river Ganges, where he devoted himself to the practice of meditation with unwavering determination. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months as Siddhartha delved ever deeper into the recesses of his own mind, determined to unlock the secrets of human consciousness. The temptations of Mara. As Siddhartha meditated beneath the shades of a towering Bodhi tree, he was assailed by a barrage of doubts, fears, and temptations. The demon Mara, embodiment of desire and illusion, sought to thwart Siddhartha's quest for enlightenment at every turn, hurling insults and distractions in a desperate bid to derail his progress. But Siddhartha remained steadfast in his resolve, meeting Mara's onslaught with unwavering determination and inner strength. With each passing moment, his mind grew clearer, his perception sharper, until finally, on the eve of a full moon, Siddhartha experienced a profound and irreversible awakening, the radiance of enlightenment. In that transcendent moment, Siddhartha shed the layers of ego and illusion that had bound him for so long and glimpsed the true nature of reality in all its radiant splendor. He saw that suffering arises from attachment to the transient and impermanent, and that true liberation lies in the realization of one's own inherent nature. With his newfound understanding, Siddhartha became the Buddha, the awakened one, and set out to share his insights with all who would listen. From the lowliest beggar to the mightiest king, the Buddha offered his teachings freely, guiding countless souls on the path to liberation and enlightenment. The trials of the teacher. Yet the Buddha's journey was far from over. In the years that followed, he faced countless trials and tribulations, from the skepticism of his own disciples to the challenges of old age and infirmity. But through it all, the Buddha remained resolute in his commitment to serve humanity with compassion and wisdom, embodying the timeless principles of mindfulness, compassion, and non-attachment in every thought, word, and deed. The legacy of the Buddha. As word of the Buddha's teachings spread far and wide, people from all walks of life flocked to hear him speak. They were drawn not only to his profound wisdom, but also to the depth of his compassion and the radiance of his presence. And so the Buddha became known as the greatest teacher in the history of human consciousness, not because of any worldly power or authority, but because of the transformative impact of his teachings on the hearts and minds of countless beings across the ages. Even today, more than 2 millennia after his passing, the Buddha's teachings continue to inspire and uplift millions of people around the world. His message of peace, compassion, and inner freedom remains as relevant and potent as ever, offering a timeless roadmap to navigate the complexities of modern life. In the end, the Buddha's greatest gift to humanity was not his enlightenment alone, but the profound realization that the potential for awakening lies within each and every one of us. As we walk the path he so lovingly illuminated, may we be guided by his timeless wisdom and inspired by his boundless compassion, until we too awaken to the truth of our own inherent nature. The Wanderer's Path. With the radiance of enlightenment illuminating his being, the Buddha embarked on a journey that would span countless miles and touch countless lives. From the bustling cities of the Ganges plain to the remote villages nestled in the foothills of the Himalayas, he wandered tirelessly, offering his teachings to all who would listen. Along the way, the Buddha encountered beings from all walks of life: merchants and mendicants, kings and commoners, saints and sinners. Each interaction presented an opportunity to share his boundless wisdom and compassion, and to plant the seeds of enlightenment in the hearts of those who were ready to receive them. In the bustling city of Rajagaha, the Buddha encountered a wealthy merchant named Anathapindika. Despite his vast wealth and material success, Anathapindika found himself plagued by a sense of inner emptiness and dissatisfaction. Moved by the Buddha's teachings, he renounced his worldly possessions and became one of the Buddha's most devoted disciples, dedicating his life to the pursuit of enlightenment. In the remote village of Uruvela, the Buddha encountered a group of ascetics who had devoted themselves to extreme forms of self-mortification in search of spiritual liberation. Seeing the folly of their ways, the Buddha gently urged them to abandon their harsh practices and embrace the middle way, a path of balance and moderation that leads to true awakening. In the kingdom of Magadha, the Buddha encountered King Bimbisara, a wise and just ruler who ruled over his kingdom with compassion and integrity. Impressed by the depth of the Buddha's wisdom, King Bimbisara became his staunch supporter and patron, providing him with food, shelter, and protection as he traveled throughout the land spreading his teachings. The challenge of Mara. As the Buddha's teachings began to spread far and wide, they attracted the attention of Mara, the lord of desire and illusion. Determined to thwart the Buddha's mission, Mara unleashed his legions of demons to sow discord and confusion among the Buddha's followers. Yet despite Mara's relentless onslaught, the Buddha remained steadfast in his commitment to the path of truth and righteousness. With unwavering determination and inner strength, he faced Mara's challenges head-on, turning each obstacle into an opportunity for growth and transformation. In the garden of Jetavana, Mara appeared before the Buddha in the guise of a beautiful maiden, seeking to seduce him with worldly pleasures and distractions. But the Buddha saw through Mara's illusions and remained unmoved, his mind as steady as the roots of the Bodhi tree beneath which he sat. In the forest of Vulture Peak, Mara appeared before the Buddha in the form of a fearsome demon, his eyes blazing with fury and his voice thundering with malice. But the Buddha met Mara's aggression with boundless compassion and loving kindness, embracing him as a wayward child in need of guidance and forgiveness. In the palace of Alavi, Mara appeared before the Buddha in the guise of his own father, King Suddhodana, pleading with him to abandon his quest for enlightenment and return to the comforts of palace life. But the Buddha saw through Mara's deception and remained resolute in his commitment to the path of liberation, knowing that true happiness lies not in worldly wealth and power, but in the freedom of the awakened mind. The enlightenment of others. As the Buddha's teachings continued to spread, they began to take root in the hearts and minds of beings throughout the world. From the humblest peasant to the mightiest king, people from all walks of life embraced the Buddha's message of peace, compassion, and inner freedom, finding solace and inspiration in his timeless wisdom. In the village of Sarnath, the Buddha delivered his first sermon to a group of 5 ascetics who had once been his companions during his years of wandering. As he expounded upon the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, the hearts of his listeners were filled with joy and understanding, and they became the first members of the Sangha, the community of monks and nuns who would carry forth the Buddha's teachings for generations to come. In the city of Sravasti, the Buddha encountered a wealthy merchant named Sudatta, who had long been a patron of the Jain tradition. Moved by the Buddha's teachings, Sudatta renounced his former allegiance and became one of the Buddha's most devoted disciples, using his wealth and influence to support the growth of the Sangha and the spread of the Dharma throughout the land. In the kingdom of Kosala, the Buddha encountered King Pasenadi, a wise and just ruler who ruled over his kingdom with compassion and integrity. Impressed by the depth of the Buddha's wisdom, King Pasenadi became his staunch supporter and patron, providing him with food, shelter, and protection as he traveled throughout the land spreading his teachings. The passing away. As the years passed and the Buddha's teachings continued to spread, his body began to weaken with age and infirmity. Sensing that his time on earth was drawing to a close, the Buddha gathered his disciples around him and imparted his final words of wisdom and guidance. "My dear disciples," the Buddha said, his voice filled with compassion and love, I have taught you the path to liberation with all the wisdom and skill at my disposal. Now it is up to you to walk that path with diligence and dedication, knowing that the fruits of enlightenment lie within your grasp, if only you have the courage to reach out and seize them. With these words, the Buddha closed his eyes and entered into a deep state of meditation, his mind merging with the boundless expanse of the universe, and as his disciples looked on in awe and reverence, the Buddha breathed his last breath and passed away into final nirvana, leaving behind a legacy of wisdom and compassion that would endure for all eternity. The legacy of the Buddha. In the wake of the Buddha's passing, his disciples were filled with grief and sorrow, knowing that they would never again have the opportunity to bask in the radiance of his presence or receive the guidance of his wisdom. Yet even as they mourned his loss, they took solace in the knowledge that the Buddha's teachings would live on in their hearts and minds, guiding them along the path to enlightenment until they too attained the ultimate goal of liberation. And so the legacy of the Buddha endured, spreading far and wide across the vast expanse of time and space, from the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas to the sun-drenched plains of the Ganges. The Buddha's teachings continued to inspire and uplift countless beings, offering a timeless roadmap to navigate the complexities of human existence and attain the peace and happiness that lie at the heart of true enlightenment.